welcome to the Naked Earth podcast. Here we have Grace. Grace is a poet, a wild woman. She's writing books, leading women through reconnecting to their divine feminine through being a living embodiment of this work. And so I'm super, super grateful to have you here and to share your voice and offer that wisdom to other women out there that are looking to do the same. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on here with you and open up this vision you're having to have more conversations like this.
It's super important. We need it. Just like more and more people are going to be looking for this work and looking for voices and looking for people who have been doing the work quietly every day when it's not fun, because especially like someone like you who has been living this work every day without validation, without that any kind of like benefit other than self-improvement and like living your beliefs wholeheartedly. And I really see you and I honor you for that, which is why I asked you
Thank
to be here.
you. Thank you. It's an honor to be asked, yeah, because it is a journey to continue to show up for the work even when the external is not giving you that validation that your ego so desperately wants.
I know the pain. I know the pain.
Yeah, I see you doing it too. I mean, you show up with incredible artwork and so much you're doing, and I'm like, how are you not famous in so many dimensions of all your crafts that you do?
Thank you. I trust in divine timing and what is meant to be. And just like yourself, just keep walking the walk and talking the talk.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, I would love to open this container with you and really just I want to give some space and ask you like how you found the work that you practice and what events kind of led you from, did you come out the womb like this or, was there a specific event that happened in your life that really pushed you over the edge to decide and commit this is my life and this is what I'm meant to be. And also if you could share a little bit of background too for those listening that may not be familiar with this kind of work, a little about what it is too that you're up to.
Thank you for asking that question. Yeah, sinking into the layers of that, it's like, where do I begin? And also, there are some simple, clear moments where the path shifted for me, but maybe just to start, with the woman's work and the devotion to the divine feminine, it's kind of been a quiet path that crept up on me as much as I was kind of maybe creeping up on it. Yeah, I mean, I was raised in a Catholic world. I was raised going to Catholic school my whole life, going to church every Sunday. And, I even look back at my childhood and I see how this relationship with my mother and my mom would always like whisper to me in church that like Jesus had a wife, it was Mary Magdalene, like my nana had that belief too. There was always kind of this subtle whisper of the red thread weaving into my life, but it didn't really become conscious until I started to walk my own path. My mom showed me the red tent when I was like 9 years old as like a coming of age. I didn't even know was a coming of age, and just like, little kind of droplets that dropped of the red, as I walked my path. And then, yeah, I had really intense body dysmorphia and eating disorders in high school. And I found yoga, and that became like this salvation in a way. And I went really deep into the yoga path and left college. There's a whole journeys and stories there, and pursued more energy therapy and yoga school. And it was honestly at the end of yoga school I really thought yoga was like it for me. I was like, this is my path. This is what I'm here for. I'm here to bring these teachings to the world. Like, and and I hadn't
Been
really come
there.
into indigenous ceremony fully yet either. And like so many things that hadn't happened yet. And yeah, and I was sitting there. I remember sitting there at the end of yoga school and being like, something's missing. I didn't understand what that was at first. And then the number 444 kept following me and really noticeably, like really loud and really like a repeated synchronicity that like after I left yoga school, even my mom noticed. It's like we left yoga school, it was 1:44 in the afternoon, and I get home and it was like August 4th, like 8/4 or something like that. Or no, 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 it had to have been the date's irrelevant. The times kept showing up with 444 and and we were at like a farmer's market and my mom and I were there and I found this little crystal shop randomly in New Jersey, like kind of super rogue crystal shop and the door was 444 and I like snuck off and went in there and was like, what's happening in here? And there was all these workshops on like the angels and how to live in a higher dimensional reality and all these things. And I was like, maybe I'm supposed to take like a workshop. Like, is something like calling to me? And then so I came back to the car. It was 11:44 and my mom was like, "Okay, Grace, like this is a little crazy. Like maybe you're meant to like go take a class. Like maybe you're right." And it was almost my birthday and she was like, "I'll buy you a class for your birthday. Like if you find something that feels like it's really calling to you." And I really wanted to go back to Kripalu, which is where I went to yoga school, and I like was searching on the website and all of the things on the website were like yoga and like gut healing and then like all the way on the last page there was this like Mary Magdalene Revealed class with Megan Watterson and Kyle Gray for $444. And I was like, I think I think
Uh,
I'm hearing what you're saying. And yeah, and that was the first entry into finding that feminine gnosis and voice within myself. And those 5 days were extremely powerful for me and just coming home to my mystic and coming home to this voice that I was hearing and I thought I knew what it was and I didn't realize it was the mother the whole time. And then from there it kind of just became this insatiable search in a way and a continued path of synchronicities that kind of guided and had me realize that this voice I was hearing that was calling consciousness or calling source, it was divine mother. And that really guided me down a path of many synchronicities, like I said, where the rose lineage came into my life and the moon dance came into my life, and things that I never foresaw myself committing to were suddenly just presented. Some part of my being just knew I was here for it, and that was all I had. So that was kind of a little tidbit of a story into how that all kind of began.
I think I love the most hearing that it was literally your mom that was the key. I feel like that's so rare to have a parent or a family member be the one to kinda guide you and, like, be right there with you with, like, the 444 and just like, "Hey, I think you're having this tingling, like, have you ever actually spoke with your how she was intertwined with all of this, or is that also kind of a mystery?"
I mean, her and I have a really unique relationship because it was really just me and her growing up, and my dad was not in the picture, and she always had this like witchy sense, but wouldn't have called it that until I became her witchy daughter. And now it's kind of more of this like reflection for her to also step into her magic and that deeper wisdom. And it kind of goes back to my great grandmother that I was named after even as well, because my mother's most mystical experiences were with her. And so there's this thread of wisdom and we're able to talk about it in certain ways that like she opens herself to understand. And there's definitely been like an expansive growth of her path since I've chosen this path and like her own healing. And it's been like beautiful to come into cohesion because at the beginning of me starting this path, we were not understanding each other on good terms. And it did take a lot of series of events and to like start to really see each other and to for me to be able to recognize my mom's role in this as well.
I really relate with that. My mom also kinda helped me and was like, "Aliens are real. Go do a meditation class." So it's really special. I understand that motherly, especially when it's kind of this type of lifestyle can be confusing for some people. I don't know if that's the right word, but, like, it's outside of the normal box of, like, classic religion or classic I don't even know what the word would be for just, like, classic kind of, normal mindset, I guess.
Mhm.
So, how do you stay dedicated to this work even when it's hard, even when
Mm.
you may not be receiving some of those grounded, like, earthly resources in return? if you wanna
Mm,
speak to that a little bit.
mhm. Yeah, thank you. That's been a question I've asked myself a lot too,
I'm right
There's
there
like
with
a
you,
deep
just letting you know.
yeah, I'm just breathing into that. Yeah, there's just a deep fire inside of my being that has a gnosis that I am here for devotion's sake. And I think that that has taken me down many paths of going all in until I'm guided to embody the next quality of it. And for me, it's the work with the goddess, the work with the divine feminine, the work with women is not something that I prioritize commodifying, perhaps in a way that many other people, and not a judgment, but women who find these things and have come from more of a business background or have come from this westernized mindset. It's like, in general, women are not all beings like colonized into a western mindset. We take something and we want to make it into a business or a product, or we learn something that's a piece of ancient wisdom and we want to put it into a box and try to resell it to someone for like double the price of what I learned it from or something. It's kind of part of the sickness in a way that I see. And like being a mystic is here to expose that sickness. And I've been on my own journey of learning how to embody the wealth and that abundance that I want to live in my life, while also keeping that part of myself in check because I see it running rampant in spiritual culture. Like it's like Jesus would be flipping all the tables in the new age world. This is like how I feel with things. And it makes me just sit and question because it's like we want to share our art, we want to share our devotions and our work in the world. And how do we do that with integrity? And how do we do that without getting lost and like losing the essence of what we're really offering? And for me, it's just been a practice of making sure I'm really in check with the essence so that when it is time for my spirit to really be sharing in bigger capacities, I don't like lose myself and like lose the essence of the devotion that was driving this whole thing to begin with. And that's kind of how I felt with the book Wild Gnosis that is going to be coming out when the goddess freaking says it to be so. It's been a journey, but and all my work, it's just like I'm being the consciousness of what even wants to come through me has been putting my ego through the ringer as to not let the ego get so invested in like the sacred work that goes beyond our sense of self in it. And I think it's really easy to get lost in that.
Very well said, and I think that's like, I feel like this gets to be talked about a lot more too, and so I'm curious from your perspective, what do you feel like that balance is between, like, being a devotional human towards Great Spirit, towards the Great Mother, towards these sacred energies that are here to endlessly support us. Truly, like you said, it's like it's pure abundance being connected to spirit. It is. And like, what do you feel like? Why do you think people want to commodify it so much instead of like being in that pure devotional state? I mean, I could even just speak from experience too. Like when I was making the flutes, for example, like, and I started to get more and more production with it. And it was like, yeah, I want to build my business, keep growing, growing. Wood, because I was working so deeply with the spirit of the wood was like, nah, like, if you're gonna work with me, it's gotta be sacred, it's gotta be small, and I have so many bigger dreams to help people and give land back movements and things like that, that I just couldn't do it through this medium, which is why I switched to the jewelry where it is less about, taking this wood, which is, there's too much deforestation happening. But that's a whole nother conversation. Like, I know what it felt like to be in that, like, I love doing this. I wanna make money from this. Like, we are in this capitalistic kind of culture of, like, wanting to take and grow and expand and hoard. And so what do you feel like and how do you keep yourself in check rather of that mindset of wanting to, I guess, quote, like, "make it," and also being connected to that devotional space? Does that make sense? Is that a clear
Mhm,
question?
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I think that's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like I have to sit with that question almost every day of what the balance is, honestly. It's like really honoring my value, which I feel like I'm on a great journey of right now and during this Saturn return, and really acknowledging the deeper value that of that cultivated devotion and honoring my human and honoring like the spirit that has moved this whole journey the whole time. And yeah, it feels like it comes back to just like really honoring the value and the potency of what we're carrying and not being afraid to like go after big numbers and to claim that like potency of what the work is. And even if people don't want to pay for it, to not back down from the value that you know that you're carrying with that work, and to just like allow yourself to set that new bar. 'Cause I know for myself, it's like, and I've talked about this with a few sisters recently, of just like the ancestral pulls of like my ancestors would have never asked for this much for what I'm doing, or like, like kind of raising the bars in these ways to create generational wealth. And that generational wealth starts from like also the knowing that like my connection to spirit is what makes me the richest woman on the planet. And like my wealth is goes so far beyond any numbers that could be in my bank account. And I've watched that play out throughout my whole journey in my 20s. It's like could be right living on a prayer, and somehow I'm like having these abundant feasts with these beautiful people and these big fires and songs, and like it's just like the abundance abounds in those ways. And I try to take in those memories and remind myself in moments when it's easy to fall into the grind of like, okay, how am I going to pay rent and how am I going to do these things, and I don't want to be living in scarcity anymore, and like doing that deep subconscious kind of work beneath the surface to like clear out any beliefs that are still holding that energy in my fields is where I've been at. And just to really continuously energetically step up, and knowing that like the karma of all of the dharma work that my soul has been accumulating. And so like I've done so many things for free, and the Gaia gathering was one, like, and just different kinds of events I've done over the years, and offerings and readings, and it's like all just poured from my soul, and felt like, yeah. And I've been noticing there's like an accumulation too when we like offer that devotional work, and it's like it's all going into some spirit bank somewhere, and you may not see it as fast as your ego wants to see it, but it doesn't mean that it's not coming. It was like a powerful realization I had over the winter of like just because you prayed for something and you haven't seen it come yet, like doesn't mean it's not on its way. And I've been really allowing the space for like the ease in that. And so yeah, to find balance in it, it feels like a constant like journey of like honoring the value, trusting the deeper core intention and devotion, and like yeah, and like accepting that we live in this like world in this capitalist world, that like we do need to create abundance, and that there's nothing wrong with monetary abundance. I think there was a big block for me in my 20s too, where I'd wanted to disown material wealth in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of us go into those spaces, especially when we're just like starting the spiritual path. And it feels so good to just like, strip everything off and take and just like live barefoot in the woods with a compost toilet, and like eating from the garbage or from your friend's garden. And like you're like, wow, I'm so rich. And then that changes and it evolves. And it's like, okay, like I want to be able to provide for my community and for this greater global community. And I think it's like also in that we are all creating a new economic system through our community. Yeah, and that could be like a whole other podcast, I'm sure. And I may not be the one to talk about all of that, but that's, how do we create this new economy together, and value the arts and the healing work and this like these ancient ways, and how do we honor the arts enough too, where we don't have to be paying for ceremonies in the way that we are, like, and that like we're able to generate abundance from our true deeper gifts. So then, ceremonies aren't $500. So the prayer work that we would be doing as a tribe isn't like making you broke. That's a whole other thing too.
No, absolutely. I feel there's definitely, like, a split of, paying for things that are worth something, for sure, but, like, knowing that line of, like, what and how much to charge for things, like, being here in Costa Rica and, like, seeing so many, like, ayahuasca ceremonies, $3,000, 3,000, 5,000. I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, half the people that need this and really need it, like they can't afford that. And I'm like, I won't participate in that. And especially like with the medicine, you know, she comes to you, she speaks to you, and when it's time, she'll call you in. But something you said really stuck with me, and that was like, you said that when you wish for something and you have a dream for something, and just because it's not coming when you want it to come, doesn't mean that it's not coming. I really see that, and that kind of makes me want to lead into hearing about your book and kind of what you're talking about in your book, what led you to writing this book. I'd love to hear more about that. And yeah, tell me about your book.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for asking. Wild Gnosis, the poetry book that became a living scripture. Yeah, it all started when I first moved to Asheville. And that first winter, I broke my kneecap and I couldn't work. And Spirit told me to start archiving all my poems. I had a completely different idea of what it was going to be. And I started archiving my poems I had written from like the 5 years before that. Um, and then and then I didn't start the book, and I just had a archive of poems, and then, like, 2 years went by, and then 3 years went by, and I entered into this very catalytic relationship that had many different layers to it, including kind of what awoke this deeper muse of the poetry within me in a way through my deeper longing for the beloved that transcended the relationship, and so there was this new voice that started to emerge from my own depths of like integrating my dark feminine with my true, not true, like light feminine, no dark and light, but like the spectrum of the feminine and her full spectrum embodiment. And so yeah, and then I had decided to take a break 2 falls ago from the medicine work and decided to step back from my relationship with peyote and the medicine and all my sisters. We were in the like eclipse portal and we had been doing kundalini for a whole week and then we were all going to this ayahuasca ceremony and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go." And then a sister checked me and was like, "You made this commitment to yourself." And I was like, "Oof, I did. I did make this commitment to myself." And so I ended up sitting up having a fire with myself all night and felt like I was on the medicine and in my own little portal of prayer and remembering my own altar with my inner medicine that night. And I ended up being up until like 4 in the morning and had a lot of prayers move through me. And then I woke up the next morning with an email from a publisher connected to Hay House. And I guess I had sent something out to them like a year ago or something. And they were curious to doing a screening call about my book. And I was like, I have a book. And one of the big prayers I had that night was, if I'm not doing all this medicine work and tending these fires and going to all these sweat lodges, like, what do you want me to focus on? And I was just really kind of in that inquiry of like, and then the answer came in so fast. And I realized I was like, oh, I have a book. Like I'm sitting on something that's like bigger than me. And so I spent the next 3 months weighing out the pros and cons of the praise and cons the pros and cons of praise it. The pros and cons of having a publisher, the little things, the poet just has lots of
Of your
moments.
next book.
Yeah. Mm. There's a lot of books, yeah. But yeah, I was weighing out the pros and cons of getting a publisher, self-publishing, and it just got really clear that I needed to self-publish. I went to the moon dance that year, got most of the book together, and then I came back from moon dance and had this really clear, like the goddess came in and was like, this is the real name of the book. You need to ask your sister, Mother Bug, Melissa Haggerty, to be in the illustrations of this book. And like, you don't know what's happening. And also you're going to be like leaving Appalachia. And I was just like, what? And so I called up my sister and she sat with it for a few days and was like, agreed and felt like the pulse that these drawings that she had been collecting over the last 10 years really wanted to be in a poetry book and that like this might be the perfect overlap. And so that then added in this whole other dimension to the book that I did not even foresee, but was so guided by the goddess that it's all just part of the journey and so yeah, and then she asked if I wanted to come and house sit out in Taos, New Mexico, and I was already getting these calls that like, oh, like I'm feeling like I need to go on a journey, like my last maiden journey, like, like and there's a whole story with all of that for sure that goes really deep. But yeah, so then I came out here to house sit and for us to work on the book, and then the storm happened in Nashville, and I ended up being out here. And really it's been the spirit of the wild gnosis, like the essence of the wild gnosis and what I'm learning from it as its own consciousness. Like I came out here to Taos and realized I'm not just holding my little book of poems. It has its own consciousness, and it's almost like this Lilith scripture of the holy forbidden and of that wild knowing that we carry that goes beyond any knowledge that we can gain. And the spirit of that can only be taught through experience. And I committed to that on some level of my soul and to carry that. And so then it's just been this like wild ride. And people always ask me, like, why is your life always so like crazy? And like this book is helping me make sense of it. Cause it's like I think we each like the mother goddess is so vast and so big. It's like we're each holding a scroll or a few scrolls of her infinite library, and we each have very specific teachings to share with the collective, and this is one of those that feels like has she has given to me to hold and to carry and to bring forth when it's in its own time. And I had a reading done recently by my beloved that, yeah, that it's like this ripe juicy fruit that's almost ripe, but it's like looks so beautiful, and I'm like reaching for it, but there's this like ancient crone woman in the garden who's like, "Not yet, honey, like it's not done yet." And I'm like, "Oh, but my ego has been so tested in this process." It's like I'm like, "It's ready." And then she's like, "Mm-mm. No, it's not."
I know we want it right now, like, right now, I'm
Yeah,
hungry
I
now.
wanted it right now. And this is like a living learning and living teachings that I'm realizing, like, yeah, that the spirit of this book really is its own being, like I've said. And so I'm learning to surrender to its growing process and to what it really wants to be. And I've in the last month just like put my hands up again and been like, okay, like the mystery wrote this book and the mystery has this book in its hands, and it'll all be complete when it's meant to. Now my sister is having a baby who's doing the illustration. Like the wild gnosis has just been like bringing in these initiations that are just unforeseen, and I think that that's when the world is ready to taste that fruit, the book will come out or something. And I'm realizing too, it's just it's much bigger than the book itself. It's like it's the whole umbrella of my work, and I have to be patient with my soul's rites of passage in that process of learning to hold something so much bigger, which I think we're all, learning to do. It's like the spirit of what we're really here to share. We have to grow into the capacity to really hold something that's so beyond ourselves, like we were saying before too. So that's a little bit about the book, and in a basic way, it's a collection of poems that goes through the awakening journey in a way with little excerpts at the beginning of each section. And so it goes from the great mystery and when your eyes are just being opened and everything's all like, wow, innocent and holy, and that like delicious feeling of just seeing and feeling spirit for the first time. And then the alchemy of that moment when you're like, oh, I'm a human too. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Do
have
you have
duality.
Yeah, do you have your book with you? Do you think you could share, like, a page or a poem from it?
I could do that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
Do you have, like, a paper copy or is it digital?
It's all digital still. There's no copies yet. It's taken much longer to get all of the many, like probably 150 drawings, like into their full expression. Can you still see me here?
Yep, I can see you.
Okay, great. This is great. And so it's taken us some time, but yeah, I can read a section of it. Maybe you can, out of the 5 sections, maybe you pick a section and I'll scroll.
Yeah, what are the
So,
section?
okay, we've got the Great Mystery, the Alchemy, the Underworlds, the Holy Forbidden, and the Thread.
Mm, let's do the Holy Forbidden.
Okay.
I was like, "Nope, don't doubt it."
I wish you could see the pages. You could see these little sweet drawings. They're really like whimsical. I've been thinking of it kind of as like Rumi meets Shel Silverstein kind of vibe. Do you want a spicy one or do you want something kind of, I mean, these ones are all kind of spicy.
Let's do a spicy, spice it up.
Okay, okay. This one is devoted to that witch wound that's so deep in the psyche. When they burned us, they did not realize that they were setting us free, that we are much more like an ancient seed, the alchemy of fire, sending the codes into ether. Millions were burned, tortured, killed, forced to choose a lie and hide or the truth their soul could never deny and to die. These wounds swallowing the voices and our sacred choices, half living while denying the stories and the bones that were buried in the grounds that we walk upon. Stolen land and buried scriptures. The truth is a threat to these control systems. Bury the body, don't tell anybody. Children and women gone missing since the beginning of his story. Great mystery, an unstoppable lover. Her whispers encrypted into the memory of silence that this universe holds. A dreaming dragon at the core of the earth. Her temples and statues may be burnt, but Great Mother's presence cannot be contained. A silent presence of a smokeless flame, eternally burning for all life to be, fully awake, just as you burned me.
Wow, that last line. I felt like as I closed my eyes and was like listening to it and living it and like feeling the ash on my body and like walking on this burned and rough earth, almost like this like medieval environment, and then almost felt like this spirit like reliving but walking it in the present, like this double timeline. And I'm so excited for your book. You're such an amazing poet and giving a voice to, yeah, it's like you give the voice to the voiceless and these lost, almost like these lost women. And like, how can they speak when people still today want to burn us? And I think it's very, very courageous of you to speak and give life to these pains. And it's like feeling the pain the way that you do gives space for yourself and the collective to feel the magic again too.
Hmm,
That's
hmm.
really, really
Yeah.
special.
I think that's the deepest essence of the feminine work that is, getting lost in the glitz and glamour of what it wants to look like to be a priestess and deep core wound of persecution that goes beyond priestess, that goes into every, human. This can go into our queer conversation. Like this goes into so deeply into the human psyche. Just like no matter how you're existing on this earth, there is that collective memory that how you are is wrong and that it's actually a risk to be what you are. It's death, in fact. And I think that we're so afraid. I mean, that's why that section's titled The Holy Bit Forbidden. Like we're so afraid to feel the depths of what we're capable of feeling because it can feel like annihilation. And I think that when we can really let ourselves go there, I mean, even in the name that my soul chose to carry, like grace is like the freedom from our suffering, the freedom from these things, but we have to know the depths of the suffering to really free ourselves, or else we're just kind of pretending we're free. And I think that there was a big part of my journey that for a while I was pretending that I was free when I was still avoiding a lot of the depths and the pain and the grief and the rage that doesn't separate you from being the light and the beauty and the love. And we like think that they're these two different things when it's like your pain is your ecstasy. Like in my deepest, falls into grief, I've never felt God closer to me. I've never, and then from there, it's like, you can go there and then you like don't have to go there in the same way. And you get this courage again to like I can go into my depths and I know I can hold my center. And I think we're just all always so afraid of like losing ourselves to the immensity of feeling, especially in times like this. And so yeah, it is a gift, and it's the big work of doing this work is to meet those edges and to do that shadow integration and to really be real with our humanness. And we can't just claim divinity. And and think that we're immune to the human experience. It's like we're missing a whole big thing.
I love that, and that makes me think of, like, my experience as being a two-spirit and, like, how I do witness a lot in the queer community of it's like, queer people I really think are the key of the healing between men and women. Like, we're the bridge, but we can only be the bridge when we as queer people acknowledge and heal our wounds and accept. Like, if I didn't accept the fact that, like, I was born female and, like, I have a womb and I have these sacred feminine gifts inside of me, like, I wouldn't be this grounded, present, clear, male presenting person that I am now. So I'm curious, like, what is your perspective in this work? Because it can be a controversial topic. Like, I know so many people, women who host women's circles who say, no, no trans people. And, specifically trans people, but yeah, I'm curious what your experience has been with queer people and in this work and how you feel like, yeah, just kind of what your experience has been with queer people in this work.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I've been really blessed to have some incredible queer close friends that have been my allies in educating me and teaching me and helping me understand a reality that is not my direct experience. And I think that that's like been my biggest thing that I can do is to just like learn from queer people, trans people, from my friends and my people that I love that this is their experience. And like every single queer person I know has a different experience of being queer and two-spirited. And there's so much diversity in that. And for me with women's work, like I try to do my best to say like womb-bodied beings when we're doing specific kind of womb work. And I incorporate the hara, for male-bodied beings that want to explore this work because I think that it's so important for all bodies to embody this work and your experience. I could never like speak to it because I don't know it and I want to understand. And I think that there is a lot of controversy with that and a lack of inclusion that kind of has turned me off. Like I like to feel like there is a space for all beings to do the sacred work, and there's not. And I've had to like evolve into that, not because I ever wanted to intentionally exclude, but because I didn't realize how my language was excluding. And I think that language is a really big part and like an inner understanding of other people's experiences that people lack the curiosity to understand, whether it's intentional or not. Like they may think they want to, but don't make the time to understand a queer person's experience or a two-spirited person's experience or the diversity of ways of experiencing life. And I've always, yeah, been a curious being that wants to understand other people's experience of being human. And I think that this womb work is like you can offer such a profound level of a different angle of insight for people that carry wombs and are afraid to, or don't want to, or feel weird about having one. And that's something that's medicine I can't necessarily bring in the same way, you know? And I think that that's where it's like Great Mother has given us these different scrolls and bundles because, like, we each can offer a way that we all can feel whole and free in our bodies again, which is our key into our divinity. And to like you were saying, to really embrace all these parts of ourselves, because like I've got my inner masculine, like I'm all about the like believing that like we have our holy family inside of us. And like I've got a king, I got a queen. My king's been super disowned because of all my father wounds, so she went like apeshit Lilith wild. And now I'm like in this phase of my life where I'm like learning to like honor this like sexy king in me that like has his throne and has his way of expressing things and organizing things and like protecting things and seeing things that like that she didn't want anything to do with for a long time, like my inner dialogue. And so that's a big part of the work too, I think, is like coming into, no matter how you identify, this deeper androgynous understanding that like our soul is androgynous. Like it's not about gender. Like our bodies are what we have and what we're learning to walk in. And if we want it to be different, that we have the opportunities to experience ourselves and how we're meant to be experiencing. And I find it like, yeah, I can't wait to continue to learn more of just like the insides of your journey of like going through that process because that's again like not something that has felt natural for me of like I don't have that desire to change but like you did and you were brave enough to do it and you look and feel more like yourself, you know, and so there's just like there's so much medicine in that for people to receive and it's a different angle. And so yeah, I really pray that this work can continue to like go beyond that because two-spirited people were never separated. Like you were saying, they're the bridge. And a two-spirited elder talked to me about this a few years ago. The two spirits were the ones that would like come into the house when the like couples were fighting and when the tribes were fighting to like balance the conversations. You are the bridge, like you were saying. And like there's just so many teachings in that. Yeah, I think that there's like so much to open in with that and how to be more aware of the inclusivity and how to like create spaces that feel safe, which I feel like I'm still on a journey of. Like, I don't have a lot of two-spirited people come to my circles, and I'm also new to Taos, but like even in Asheville, like it wasn't. I did my best, but it wasn't like I come off as super femme. And so people don't always like want to engage with that. And I can't change myself either, but I can't change what I am, but I can learn how to create spaces where when people like are curious can feel safe and that feels like a responsibility with doing this kind of work.
Yeah, I'll just say I think you're doing a great job. Like,
Thanks. I'm doing my
you're doing a
best.
great job. Like, there's I don't know, it's like we don't have to get so, like, heady about it, when it comes to, like, inclusion and, like, using the right words and doing it because that's also the wound for the queer community to, like, love y'all, but, like, not getting so triggered when people don't use the right words and the right pronouns and the right inclusion, and it's, like, changing this whole language. There's a balance of, like, honoring what people are coming in with, but there's this space where and it's coming soon, I can feel it, but, like, where the queer community starts to kinda realize that this work involves them, and them doing their work to not being so, like, foot in the ground of, like, "This is how I wanna be treated, and this is how all containers should be," and it's like, we live in this, like, wavy kind of experience, and at least myself, like and I've seen hundreds of queer people, trans people through my life experience, and but to stay true to this conversation, I just wanna acknowledge and say, like, it was because of you. Like, you were a huge part for me to, like, really embracing and feeling accepted in being born with the feminine. And, like, especially at Gaia Gathering and, like, even just the way that you've talked to me, like, I know I'm feeling all teary-eyed about it. But, like, there was red tents that I tried to be a part of, and they're like, "No, like, you look like a dude. Get the fuck out." And it was, like, to kick somebody out who's trying to seek this work, like, the whole point of the work is to go within and do it, and I just really respect and am grateful for you just, like, calling me in and, like, welcoming me and, like, giving me that space to share my knowledge and share my experience because it is important. And it's like, even just that, like, that's enough. You didn't need to change the whole experience of that gathering and the rules and the language. It's like, just welcoming and inviting people like us into these spaces is that's the healing. That's the healing right there, because I might be really lenient on, if you don't say like womb body people or, I've heard some really weird, some really weird phrases. I'm gonna be honest. I'm like, y'all need to chill. Some of this is just a little too nuts. I really like people
Uh,
like womb bearers, like people like
mhm.
it feels like a righteous kind of title. Like, yes, I bear a womb, like I hold this womb, but yeah, I think you're doing a great job, and I think even women, white women who may be listening to this and may also be feeling it, but hearing it from you, can help them be a little bit more open too. Because like, the queer world can be pretty intimidating, like, not wanting to say the wrong thing, sometimes feeling like you're walking on eggshells, and I do think there's a wave coming of people, starting to integrate and starting to realize that we are a part of the equation. It's not just man and woman. Like, that's so 1940s family system.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just wanna honor you in that and lift you up, and that's also why I invited you here, because I do see you as somebody that it's like you're so true to your experience as a woman, and you also just hold space that there's more. And I think just that can if more people did that, I think that could really change this culture.
Mhm, that's really touching in my heart to hear you say that and, like, really meaningful. Cause 'cause I've lost some friends that I met as, like, she, and then they changed, and I called them she once by accident or said sister, and they blew up, and something I've learned too, and I'm really just grateful to hear that reflection, but it's like, you were integrated enough in accepting yourself that people being a different way and, like, learning with you wasn't offensive to you, and I think that that's also just, like, steps we both on both sides need to take, you know? Like, I can't change everything that I am to fit your reality, just like you can't change everything you are to fit my reality, but where can we all always meet in the middle and create a space of safety and bravery to just, like, bravely grow together and learn together and have room to make mistakes and have room to learn, because if we can't do that, like, we're not gonna get anywhere in the bigger picture, you know? So I really appreciate hearing you share that and say that. It's, like, really meaningful to me because I
Absolutely.
really do my best to try to, like, learn and hold space for all people to share their experience. It just feels really important to me. My cat is being a little intense. 1 second. Let me I'm gonna, like, hold on. Do something different for a second. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Un momento. For a second. Very fast. He needs his laser.
No worries. I totally get it. Junie, our little dog, kinda almost every time Lena and I get on a call, like, she just decides she's gonna pace around the house for an hour.
That was the moment.
This is my
Yeah,
time
like,
to
once
shine.
my focus is somewhere else, he must start biting me.
Oh my
This is like he's really intense, honestly. I'm like, "Wow, I have adopted quite a being." He's a warrior. I don't know what I would expect to get a cat out of a Sundance, though, so it's
God the warrior. Nice, nice. Cool, we're coming to the end here, so I do have one little surprise question, I'd love to ask,
yeah.
and it would be, what do you wanna leave behind for the next 7 generations? What do you wanna be remembered for, and how do you wanna if you could do anything to shift this world and make an imprint for 7 generations after you, what would it be?
Yeah, the legacy that my soul, like, yearns to really leave is to be remembered as that wild woman who is devoted and lived it, really lived the prayer, lived her experience, shared her wisdom, shared everything that she had inside of her for that greater vision to be passed on, to be seen as that bearer of the torch and to pass it on so fully, to leave no stone unturned in that journey. Yeah, and to be remembered for just, like, loving and just, like, allowing everyone to have a seat at the table. That those 2 kind of visions come into my mind when you ask me that question. It's like, yeah, really leaving a legacy of remembering, and I guess the word inclusivity comes through, but, like, something even bigger than that, like, just that all beings are welcome to this love, to this feast of the beloved, and to, like, be that reminder for the next generations to, like, remember what's real, which is nature, which is each other, which is our laughter and our art and
That's beautiful. And how would you give one piece of advice for beings out there to embrace more of the wild in their day-to-day life?
Yeah, my biggest invitation with that question is to lean into what is uncomfortable and to lean into meeting the edges of your experience and then lean a little bit further and And yeah, to embrace the wild in your life can look like anything from, I mean, depending on where you're at on your path, it could just be the wildness of taking your shoes off and walking in your lawn. It could be go take your clothes off and swim in a river naked alone. It could be go to a top of a mountain and scream in a way that you would never do in the streets. And it could be eating a meal that you never would have eaten before. It could be go talk to that stranger that you would never talk to because you would have judgment about them and see what they're actually about. It could be, go participate in a ceremony or a ritual or something that it puts you on an edge to your healing journey. I think that being embodied in the wild, it just really depends on your own journey and where you're at and what your soul needs. Because I think we have this idea of wildness being this like, we're like, "Oh, I gotta be like unhinged all the time." And it's like wild is very like instinctual. Like wild is instinctual and intuitive. Like we look at animals in nature and they're wild, but they're in a way calculated and there's a wisdom and an intuition. So to get more in touch with your wild can also just be to get in touch with your inner voice and your intuition and to trust that instinct more and to let that intuitive instinct guide your decisions for a day and see where it leads you. Yeah, so that's my invitation for humanity is listen to that inner voice and trust where it leads you.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Grace. Thank you so much for your wild wisdom and for living the path. And thank you for being a woman that will be remembered for being wild and giving everyone a seat at the table. Where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me online. On my Instagram for now is kind of my main page, which is Grace Asharah, on my website with Wild Grace Alchemy. And then I also do my photography, videography work, which is expanding into more of a goddess preservation project that's leading us on a pilgrimage in the next few months to Turkey, which is exciting. So you can find that with Wild Eros on Instagram, and website is Wild Eros Vision.
Wow, that's very exciting. Amazing. I'd love to talk to you more about that later. See, just excited for you for that. Amazing. Cool. So I'll plug your information in all the places where people find that.
Thank you
Uh,
so much for having me on here and
yeah,
for weaving this podcast together. It feels like a really exciting beginning.
exciting beginning. All right. Thank you, Grace. All right, everyone. Thank you so much again for listening to this Naked Earth podcast with Grace. If you would like to step more into your own divine feminine embodiment, you can find my Serpent's Bloom amulet at nakedearth.art/the altar, where you can find this amulet and step into your own embodiment and reclaiming this power within you that you are wild, free, and feminine. See you next time.